Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GinJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Sunday, December 22nd. Your Jacksonville Jaguars have just fallen to the Las Vegas Raiders by a final score of 19-14. Both teams are now 3-12. This was a game in which a portion of the Jacksonville Jaguars fan base would have liked to seen a win, a competitive team. It was a competitive game from a final score, from a results standpoint, but it was not a good football game. It was not a well-coached football game. It was not a well-executed football game, in my opinion. 19-14, the Jaguars fall to the Raiders, who were 2-12 entering the game. Jaguars obviously 3-12 without their starting quarterback, without their top wide receiver entering the year, without their top tight end entering the year. They do have some issues on the offensive side of the ball from an injury perspective. There's no question about it. But I expected the Jaguars to win this football game. And that was not like a heart thing talking. That was picking from my head. I did not think that the Las Vegas Raiders would beat the Jacksonville Jaguars today. And I'll be honest with you. I've told y'all, I am at the point this season, the Jaguars have nothing to play for besides their pride, besides, falling down the draft board, right? Losing games is better for the long-term health and future of the Jacksonville Jaguars because it helps them in the draft position, and it's also potentially going to help their owner realize it's time, right? It's time to make some major changes, not just with the coaching staff, not just with the front office, but with both, right? So that's where I've been at for a while. Even going back when they started 0-4, I was like, this is not it, because you can't have every single year where you dig yourself these holes and you have to fight your way out of it. Like, it's just not acceptable. But we don't need to go all the way back to that. Let's talk about this football game, right? Jaguars 14, Raiders 19 in Las Vegas. A little fun winter night, December 22nd, a few days before Christmas. So the Jaguars, ultimately, in my opinion, they beat themselves a little bit. How did they beat themselves? Fumbling the football, right? Obviously. You cannot put the ball on the ground as much as Tank Bigsby has done it this year. And he only has three fumbles technically, right? But there's also been one that was called back due to a penalty. He puts the ball on the ground too much. He just does. Bottom line. And I know the Brenton Strange fumble ultimately didn't amount to much, but this is a football team that finds different ways to lose. And I think part of that can certainly be blamed on the players making mistakes. Part of it can be blamed on coaching. Beyond the fumbles, how about all the offsides penalties on the defensive side of the ball? It's inexcusable to line up offsides that many times. It doesn't make any sense, right? It's crazy. It's absolutely, it's mind-boggling to have that many offsides penalties in a game. And, they only had 8 penalties for 60 yards. I mean, 8 penalties isn't great. 60 yards isn't too bad, but it's a lack of focus at this point. And do you blame the coaches for that? Do you blame the players for that? At this point in the season, when you're a team that was told by your owner that this is the best team we've ever assembled, and you're sitting here 3-11 entering this contest with a few weeks left in the season, 3 weeks left in the season, it's difficult to stay focused. It's difficult to try to be at your best. That's what you get paid to do, obviously, but this is a football team that has disappointed all year. Whether Trevor Lawrence has been in the game or not, they've been a disappointing football team. And again, to me, that goes back to a lot of changes need to be made. Coaches, you got to wipe the slate clean. Front office, you got to wipe the slate clean. And with the roster, a lot of change is needed. Now, are there building blocks? Yes, there are building blocks. And the NFL is the league of parity. This is a franchise, a team that I think with the right coaching in place, with the right people making decisions in the front office, yeah, they could flip the script very quickly because they have the quarterback, they have a lot of pieces. But there are missing pieces. Again, personnel-wise, coaching-wise, front office-wise. This football game, again, Tank Bigsby fumbled the ball. Overall, pretty solid day from him. But the fumble, it's a killer. And he's had ball security issues throughout his young career so far. He was able to eliminate those in his final year at Auburn, but they did plague him earlier on in his career in college. So this is not like an isolated incident. This is not just random bad luck. It's something that has been an issue for Tank, unfortunately. And now I've probably buried the lead to an extent. There's two things that you come away from this football game very, very optimistic and excited about. Brian Thomas Jr., career high in receiving yards, rookie year obviously, but he surpassed 1,000 yards on the season. He also has 9 touchdowns now. In all likelihood, as long as he's able to go out there and perform the way Brian Thomas Jr. performs over the next couple of weeks, he's going to get the 10 touchdown club. He's passed 1,000 yards receiving, 9 catches on 13 targets for 132 yards and a touchdown. He did have there was a deep ball he should have brought in. There's no question about that, but long of 62 yards, again, 9 catches for 132 yards. That's 14.7 yards per catch on 13 targets. You just kind of wonder, had the Jaguars made the conscious effort to feed him the football consistently throughout this season when Trevor Lawrence was actually healthy, could there have been a difference in the outcome of this season? Because they lost so many close games early on. And this is another close game, obviously, that they lost. But they lost so many close games when Trevor Lawrence was healthy. Had they just simply said, we're going to feed BTJ the ball more in more advantageous situations. But, if ifs and buts, right? That's kind of how it goes with this football team. But Brian Thomas Jr. is, I mentioned building blocks. He is about as strong as a foundational piece as you can have as a rookie wide receiver. He has been the most productive rookie wide receiver in the NFL. So kudos to him, right? And then the other major storyline here is that with this loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, who did have the number 1 overall pick entering this week, the Jaguars go from the 4 spot to the 3 spot, and now the Raiders, who are a quarterback-needy team, are all the way down at 6. Why is this significant? The Giants, obviously a quarterback-needy team, have the number 1 overall pick. The Patriots, they do not need a quarterback, right? They're at number 2. Jaguars sit there at number 3. And the Patriots, they have a strength of schedule of 463. The Jaguars have a strength of schedule of 480. Can they bridge that gap? Potentially maybe, but probably not. Patriots are probably going to lose both of their next 2 games, while the Jaguars, they have a decent shot of beating Tennessee next week. I don't think they'll beat the Colts the following week, but you never know. So Jaguars, though, sitting at 3. Ahead of them is one team that needs a quarterback. Behind them, the Titans, the Browns, the Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Jets, New Orleans Saints. A lot of teams that could be looking at the quarterback position and saying, we need to bolster that and we need to jump up in this draft. Because let's say the Giants take Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. There's going to be only one quarterback, according to most of draft media, most of the people that follow the draft, you've got Shedeur Sanders, you've got Cam Ward. That leaves one quarterback that has legitimate round 1 pedigree, again, according to most. I personally don't think that either of these quarterbacks are true top of the draft type of guys. I think there's too many question marks both ways that we've talked about a lot. But teams could say, look, we've got this opportunity to go get this guy that we feel confident in. And who knows how these teams will actually feel. But we've got the opportunity to go up, move up to number 3. We know the Patriots aren't going to take a quarterback. Now, could somebody move up to number 2 to say, look, the Giants are going to take their quarterback, and then we want to make sure we get to 2 so nobody else trades up to 2, right? Yes, that's a possibility. But it's also possible that it's draft night. The Giants take Shador or Cam. The Patriots, they take Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Tedero McMillan, whoever it is. And then you're sitting there at number 3, and these teams are saying, hey, the Titans are at 4. The Browns are at 5. The Raiders are at 6. We don't have to move up a ton to go get to 3, and we'll have the opportunity to make sure we get our guy and make sure that the teams in front of us or the teams behind us don't jump up and get him. That could be a possibility, right? So moving up to number 3, moving ahead of the Raiders, who again are one of those quarterback needy teams, is advantageous for the Jaguars from a positioning standpoint, and the fact that it's possible they could receive a nice trade offer to move down. And again, things can continue to change. There's still going to be 2 games left for movement here at the top of the draft. But that is significant. It's also significant just moving up to 3, right? You're in a better position to get the best possible player if you don't want to trade down. You know the Giants are taking a quarterback in all likelihood. The Patriots will not be. But at 3, you're going to have your chance to potentially take your second best player on the board. And at 4, you probably could have done that as well, which is where the Jaguars were before. Because before it was the Raiders and the Giants at 1 and 2. So does it change that much in that regard? No. But it gives you better positioning to potentially go land your guy. And it gives you better positioning to potentially trade down. Now, beyond Brian Thomas Jr. having a big game in this one, what did we say was the going to lead to the Jaguars potentially losing this game? I said if they cannot cover Brock Bowers, which unsurprisingly they could not cover Brock Bowers. Right? Jaguars have really struggled with tight ends for a very long time. They've struggled with the screen game for a very long time. You saw some screens hit as well. He was targeted 13 times, 11 receptions, 99 yards. Most unsurprising thing of all time, right? When it comes to covering and following these Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the final thing I'm going to say is when it comes to Mac Jones, I think it's just been very clear that he probably has not accomplished in Jacksonville what he hoped to accomplish, and he's had plenty of opportunities. Plenty of opportunities to go out there and play football, execute behind an offensive line that's operating at a decent level in pass protection. And he just hasn't done it. Has not done it. For Mac, I think this was hopefully a year where he could figure out a way to get an opportunity probably to try to compete for a starting job next year somewhere. Again, final year of his deal. Come here, rehab your image, rehab your game, get back on the right track. I just don't think you've seen it. And yes, he had a couple nice deep balls today, but so many inaccurate passes throughout this time that he's been starting, so many poor decisions. And I mean, he's lucky as heck from a stat line perspective that they did not give Caleb Vaughn chase on that interception. Shout out to Caleb Vaughn, right? Making some plays against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And his sack, it was a coverage sack. Kudos to him for making the play, though. Kudos to him for getting Mac Jones on the ground. But it's just very clear that he's not going to be a starting quarterback in this league. And I don't know that teams are going to be like lining up to sign him as their top backup option either. We'll see. Wish the best for him, but I don't think that has worked out how anyone envisioned. So just a rough year all around. I'm now 10-5, by the way, picking Jaguars games this year. I expected the Jaguars to win this one. They were not able to do so against a very, very bad but competitive in terms of there's no quit in this Raiders team. There are some veteran players, and I think that their coaching, while it might not be great, I think they're a better coach football team than the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, which says a lot. It does. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. We will continue to break down this game, break down the future of the Jacksonville Jaguars, all that good stuff this week. Will be a little bit of an abbreviated week in terms of content because of obviously Christmas coming up, but we will do our best to get out as much content as we possibly can for y'all this week. Continue talking Jaguars football. Really appreciate y'all supporting the channel. If you enjoy the content, please like, comment, subscribe. Y'all have a good one.